What would you do if the woman you built your life around, the one who swore she never wanted kids, the one who argued with you about it for years until you reshaped your future around her decision, suddenly showed up on social media smiling, holding her belly, tagged in photos with a guy who literally goes by the handle CryptoBro420? That's not a setup for a bad joke. That's my life, that's my reality. And I'm still trying to decide if it's tragic, hilarious, or just the most absurd cosmic punchline the universe has ever thrown at me. Let me back up. When we first met, kids were a topic that came up early. I remember the exact night, third date, cheap wine, sitting cross-legged on her apartment floor because she didn't have a proper dining table. She looked me dead in the eye and said, "Just so you know, I don't want kids ever. That's not negotiable." And I respected it. In fact, I admired her honesty. I'd always pictured myself as a dad one day, but I thought, hey, relationships are about compromise, right? And when you're head over heels, you convince yourself love is enough to override biology, dreams, whatever. So I nodded. I kissed her. I told her I could live without that part if it meant living with her. Fast forward 6 years, married, settled, house together, shared bills, shared everything. And every time the kid conversation came up, usually because a friend had a baby or my mum made a comment, she shut it down. Not happening. Sometimes it was calm. Other times it was heated, with her saying things like, "Why isn't what we have enough for you?" And I backed off. I didn't want to pressure her. I didn't want to be that guy who forces someone into a life they don't want. So I swallowed it down, buried that part of me, told myself family can mean just the two of us. And then last week I'm scrolling Instagram half distracted while waiting for my coffee, and I almost dropped my phone. There she is. My wife, well, soon to be ex if we're being technical, standing in front of a neon sign that says future loading, with her hands cradling a very obvious bump. And beside her, some guy in a trucker hat and a hoodie with Bitcoin logos all over it, grinning like he just hit the jackpot. His tag, CryptoBro420. I thought it was a parody account at first. I thought maybe someone was catfishing using her photos. But no, clicking through, it was all there. Her profile linked, friends congratulating her, captions about new chapters and miracles I never expected. And him, this dude with pictures of Lamborghinis he doesn't own, screenshots of coin charts and motivational captions like, "Don't sleep on Doge." This was the man she decided to build a family with, after telling me for years she didn't want one at all. Do you understand the kind of madness that creates in your head? It's not just betrayal, it's betrayal weaponized with irony. It wasn't just that she lied about kids. It's that she used "I don't want kids" as the cornerstone of our life decisions, the vacations we took instead of saving for daycare, the way I got used to picturing a retirement with just the two of us, the arguments I had with my own family when they asked when we'd start trying, and I defended her choice because I thought that's what loyalty was. And now this, pregnant by a guy who brags about buying NFTs at 3 a.m. The first feeling wasn't even anger, it was disbelief. Like maybe I'd hallucinated it. I refreshed the page 3 times, same photo, same caption, same hashtags, blessed, crypto family, new beginnings. My heart didn't just sink, it plummeted through the floor. I sat there in the cafe, coffee going cold, while strangers around me scrolled their feeds, completely unaware that my entire world had just been rewritten in public. I didn't call her, "Hey, congrats on the baby with CryptoBro420. No. Instead, I went home and just sat, stared at the walls, looked at the framed photos of us, the trips, the holidays, the milestones, all suddenly poisoned with the knowledge that she'd been playing me with a story about not wanting kids, while apparently she just didn't want them with me. That's the part that gutted me. Not the lie itself, but the implication. She didn't want kids with me. I wasn't her forever. I was her for now, the placeholder until she met someone who flipped a switch inside her. And that someone turned out to be a guy who brags online about moonbags and calls himself a serial entrepreneur, despite never holding a job longer than 6 months. The spiral in my head was brutal. I started replaying everything, every fight about kids, every dismissal, every time I'd back down to keep the peace. Were those fights real, or was she just hiding the fact that I wasn't the one she wanted a family with? Did she know all along? Or did something just shift the moment she met this guy? Did I waste years of my life on a story she'd already written the ending to? The worst part? People started reaching out. Friends, co-workers, even her cousin. "Hey, have you seen the news? Dude, are you okay?" Imagine finding out your wife's pregnancy through Instagram, and then imagine having to play catch-up with people you barely talk to because they think you already knew. I was humiliated, not just betrayed but blindsided in front of an audience. That night, when she came to pick up the last of her things from the house, we'd already been separated for a couple months, though not officially. I looked at her differently. She had that glow. You know the one? Pregnant women get it. She looked happy, radiant even, and it was like another knife, because I never saw her like that with me. She smiled when she saw me, awkwardly, like she wanted to soften the blow. I didn't say a word, just handed her the box of clothes she came for, watched her leave, and shut the door. I won't lie to you, it destroyed me for a while. The silence of the house was deafening. Every creak felt like an accusation. I questioned everything, my worth, my choices, my ability to trust. But as the days stretched, something else started to grow inside me. Not forgiveness, not acceptance, just clarity. She didn't lie about not wanting kids. She lied about not wanting kids with me. And if that's the truth, then thank God it came out now rather than 10 more years down the line. Because I'd rather be broken now than trapped in a life built on someone else's conditions, someone else's lies. But I also knew this wasn't the end of the story, because when someone rewrites your future without your permission, you don't just walk away quietly, you make sure the truth has a stage. And when I tell you how I confronted her, not with rage, not with fists, but with something far sharper, you'll understand why this story didn't end with me being the fool she thought she left behind. Part 2. Because if part 1 was the slap across the face, this was where I learned how to stand back up without shaking, without begging, and without letting her script me as the bitter ex she wanted me to be. The photo of her and CryptoBro420 wasn't just a reveal. It was a declaration, a public announcement that I had been erased from her story. She'd spent years telling me she didn't want children, arguing until I let go of dreams I had carried since I was a kid myself. And now she was radiant with someone who looked like he'd crawled out of a Discord server about Dogecoin. That wasn't just betrayal, it was character assassination, the kind where they make you believe you were the problem the whole time. I sat in the quiet of my house and thought about the last fight we had about kids. She had said, "You just don't get it. I don't want to ruin my life." And I remember nodding, swallowing the sting because I thought loving her meant sacrificing myself. But now I realized what those words really meant. It wasn't motherhood she thought would ruin her life. It was motherhood with me. That night, instead of drinking myself into oblivion or rage texting her, I opened up my laptop. I pulled up folders I hadn't looked at in years, emails, chats, old messages, receipts, little digital fossils of conversations where she spelled it out in black and white. I don't want kids, ever. I didn't even know why I saved them. Maybe instinct. Maybe because some part of me always wondered if those conversations would matter someday. And now, they mattered more than anything, because she hadn't just told me, she'd told everyone. Her parents, our friends, my family. She stood on her soapbox, loud and proud about how she didn't want to be chained down or reduced to someone's mum, and I backed her every time, defended her, protected her from whispers. She's allowed to make that choice, I'd say, because I thought I was being noble. Now here she was, hashtags about miracles, and life begins now, standing next to a man whose entire brand was screenshots of crypto wallets and gym selfies in tank tops that read "grind or die." So I made a choice. I wasn't gonna scream. I wasn't gonna chase. I wasn't even gonna expose her directly. I was gonna hold a mirror up so clear she couldn't squirm away from her own reflection. It started small. I sent a single screenshot of one of those old messages, her saying kids are disgusting, I will never ever have them, to her mother. No context, just the words. Then I waited. An hour later, her mum called me, voice trembling, asking what was going on. I didn't say much, just check Instagram. And I could hear the gasp through the line when she saw the post. Next I sent another screenshot to my sister. The one who had cried once because she wanted to be an aunt so badly but gave up on the dream because of my wife's hard line. My sister posted a vague but sharp comment under the pregnancy announcement. Funny how life changes when it's the right guy, huh? That comment blew up. Friends started asking questions. The perfect glossy image began to crack. Meanwhile, I did my own homework on CryptoBro420. It didn't take long. His real name was Jake. He had 2 failed startups, 1 bankruptcy filing, and a trail of angry ex-investors who claimed he'd scammed them on the next big coin. He wasn't rich. He wasn't stable. He wasn't even employed. He was living off hype and charm, and she'd hitched her entire future and her unborn child to that flimsy wagon. When we finally spoke, she tried to play it calm. She came by to talk, her belly showing now under the loose dress, and for the first time I didn't feel the pull of love or longing. I just saw a stranger. She sat across from me, hands folded, and said, "I know this must be hard for you, but I never lied. I didn't want kids then." I laughed, not loudly, just this low, bitter laugh that made her frown. I opened my laptop and slid it toward her. Message after message, years worth, her words about never wanting children. This wasn't about timing, I told her. It wasn't about being ready. You just didn't want them with me. And instead of saying that, you let me build a life around your lie. She flinched, tried to argue, said things like, "People change, and you can't control who you fall in love with." But every excuse sounded hollow when the evidence sat right in front of her. And then I delivered the final blow, a printed copy of Jake's bankruptcy filing. "This is who you're having a child with, a man who can't even manage his own money. You told me kids would ruin your life. You were right, just not for the reasons you thought." Her face went pale. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She just gathered her bag and left. And in that silence, I knew I had won. Not because I hurt her, but because I refused to let her rewrite the story with me as the fool. The fallout was brutal for her. Family embarrassed, friends questioning, Jake exposed as less of a crypto genius and more of a conman. And me, I walked away free. No child tied me to her forever, no lingering what-ifs, just clean air, fresh ground, and a new understanding of what betrayal really means. She said she didn't want kids. The truth was she didn't want my kids, and that hurt. It burned. But it also freed me, because once you realize someone's love came with hidden conditions, you stop mourning what you lost and start celebrating what you escaped. And if you ask me now how I feel, watching her post baby bump photos with captions about family goals while her crypto bro struggles to pay rent, I'll tell you the truth. I smile, not because I'm cruel, not because I wish her harm, but because I finally see it clearly. Sometimes the biggest blessings come wrapped in betrayal, and the child she swore would ruin her life, turns out, not having that child with her saved mine.